It finally happened, just in the nick of time. The Court of Appeals has responded, and wow, talk about cutting it close. I can't help but wonder if the Ripple team was starting to feel the pressure. Honestly, who wouldn't? Let me break it down. If the Court of Appeals hadn't filed this document today, yes, today, the final deadline, Ripple would have been forced to move forward with the next steps in their appeal against the SEC. Tired of fake gurus who claim to be expert traders but never trade live? I trade live on the second largest crypto exchange, where everything is transparent and results can't be faked. For over 440 days, I've consistently closed every month in profit. In the last 90 days alone, my followers have earned over $34,000 in profits with only 4% drawdown. Verified results, not empty claims. Want to see my verified stats? Click the first link in my profile and start copying my trades for free today. Thankfully, we don't have to imagine that scenario, because we got the news just in time. Now let's talk suspense. The Court of Appeals absolutely knew the clock was ticking, and they swooped in at the last moment. The decision? A pause on proceedings. For now. As you've probably heard, Ripple and the SEC agreed to hit the brakes temporarily, giving everyone a moment to catch their breath. But before we dive deeper, let me get this out of the way. I'm not a financial expert, and this isn't financial advice. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves talking about all things blockchain on YouTube. It's purely a hobby, just for fun. So here's the deal. Don't make any financial decisions based on what I say or write. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive in and clear the table with a quick refresher, since it's been 6 days. Big news from the street. SEC and Ripple Labs have filed a surprise joint motion to pause the ongoing appeal and cross-appeal. Yes, you read that right. A significant twist in the lengthy legal saga between the SEC and Ripple. This motion essentially hits the brakes, suggesting a potential settlement could be just around the corner, pending SEC approval. Now, we had an inkling this was happening about 2 weeks before the official filing, thanks to Ripple's earlier hints. But what makes this moment huge? It's the first time the SEC has publicly acknowledged, yeah, something's in the works. Ripple had already laid the groundwork, but hearing it directly from the SEC, that's a reason to celebrate. It feels like victory is within reach. Of course, there's still one last hurdle standing in the way. For now, this joint filing 6 days ago is basically a signal to pause the legal chess game. The key takeaway? They're asking to put everything on hold, and that's a big deal. It's a waiting game, but we're closer than ever to seeing the end of this story. Here's the interesting part. The SEC, Ripple, and the other parties involved have all been named, and they've jointly requested to pause the appeals process. Why? Because they've reached an agreement in principle, pending commission approval, to resolve the case, the SEC's appeal, and Ripple's cross-appeal. Essentially, they're saying, let's hit pause to save everyone time and resources while we hammer out the final details. And honestly, it makes sense. Legal proceedings are insanely expensive. Think about it. All the filings, briefs, and documentation I've been sharing with you take countless hours of attorney work. Every single page has a price tag. So, if there's a chance to avoid racking up more costs by holding off, why wouldn't they take it? Pausing now is just smart. That said, this whole thing hinges on the commission's approval. They still need to vote. Even though there's an agreement in principle, nothing is set in stone yet. If the commissioners don't give it the green light, then the appeals process will continue. So while progress has been made, it's not over until that vote happens. Well, that's just not happening. I can't see it for a second. There's no way this is actually going down. Let's face it, Paul Atkins is pulling the strings now, and he's all in. Plus, with Trump being so pro-crypto, it's safe to say the government's stance from the top down is firmly in favor of crypto. This whole thing, it's disappearing. Now, here's the real story of the day. The court has officially granted a 60-day pause on the SEC versus Ripple appeals case. What does that mean? It means the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has approved a joint request from Ripple Labs and the SEC to put the appeal on ice while they hash out a potential settlement. In an April 16th filing, the court granted the motion to hold the appeal in abeyance, giving both parties breathing room for 60 days. By June 15th, the SEC has to file a status report to update everyone on where things stand. Oh, and let's give credit where it's due. Attorney James K. Phelan of the XRP community deserves a huge shout-out. The guy's been tirelessly sharing updates and documents for years, and this morning was no exception. His latest post on this, already viewed 794,000 times. There's been so much chatter around this, and now it feels like we're finally reaching the end of a chapter that XRP holders will never forget. It's been a crazy ride, and while this might not directly change much for XRP, it already has legal clarity, Can't help but stay invested in seeing it through. It's not just about the outcome, it's about closure. This moment is as much about reflection as it is about resolution. Not it. So here's the big news we shared this morning with the XRP community, SEC Ripple. The joint motion to hold the appeal in abeyance has officially been granted. The SEC now has 60 days to file a status report. Naturally, XRP community member Sherry was asked to break this down. While her credentials aren't listed outright, her sharp insights have earned her the trust of the community. She's as good as any lawyer when it comes to dissecting this case. Her take: the appeal pause is official. Next, the SEC will vote on proceeding with the settlement in principle they've been working on with Ripple. After that, both parties will go back to Judge Torres for guidance on how to finalize everything. All of this is set to happen before the 60-day window the SEC requested, so keep that in mind. Here's the deal. The most probable outcome, in my view, is the SEC commissioners voting to make this whole situation disappear. Honestly, that seems like a no-brainer at this point. But even if, I'd say it's almost a virtual certainty, that happens, it's not the final chapter. Don't forget about Judge Torres's ruling. She made it clear Ripple slipped up in one aspect. But for XRP holders, the key stuff, we won that battle, no doubt about it. However, Ripple didn't leave unscathed. They were hit with a $125 million penalty and an injunction that shook up how Ripple payments function. Why? Well, that injunction forced Ripple to switch from using XRP to stablecoins for US-connected transactions. This completely altered the way they operated. It wasn't optional. They had to comply. Now, Ripple's mission is clear. They're pushing to have that injunction scrapped. If successful, XRP could flow seamlessly across all corridors worldwide, including those involving the US. On top of that, there's the penalty reduction. As you may know, the agreement in principle would slash it from $125 million to $50 million. But here's the catch. Judge Torres issued the penalty, so Ripple can't just wave it away. They still need to go back to Torres for that approval, and this involves an entirely different court from the one handling the recent appeal. It's a separate circuit altogether. To move forward, they'll need to circle back to Judge Torres and see if there's room to negotiate. But how will she respond? I often wonder how judges handle these situations. Is it just a matter of acknowledging the request? After all, if a judge grants what both parties want, does it come across as admitting their original ruling wasn't strong? It's an intriguing dynamic. Are judges concerned about how these decisions reflect on them? I've heard attorneys discuss this, and it's a fascinating concept to consider. What will Judge Torres decide? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, attorney Fred Rispoli, a prominent voice in the XRP community, shared his thoughts. He said, "Talk about cutting it close. I hope one day Stuart Alderati, Ripple's chief legal officer, tells us if the brief was already finalized and ready to file today, just in case this didn't pan out." This comment ties directly into Ripple's looming April 16th deadline. If they hadn't secured the pause on appeal proceedings, Ripple would have had no choice but to move forward. Honestly, I'd wager there's already a fully polished legal brief sitting on someone's hard drive at Ripple HQ, just waiting to be submitted. Deadlines don't wait, and if the pause wasn't agreed upon, Ripple would have had to act regardless. I'm willing to bet that, even though this came together last minute, there's already a document ready to go. It'd be irresponsible not to have one, right? But let's be real, we'll probably never see it. It's just sitting on someone's hard drive, existing in an alternate timeline we'll never experience. Ripple is still locked in a battle with the SEC today, and that's the reality we're in. But hey, we don't need to see that mystery document. I'm still betting it's out there, though, somewhere. And speaking of court moves, Ripple didn't need to file anything today, thanks to the appeal pause being in effect. A small win, but you can imagine the Ripple team thinking, are they gonna act today? Because if not, it's time to drop this bad boy. Meanwhile, Fred Rispoli, a well-known legal mind in the XRP community, chimed in. He's predicting this whole saga could wrap up by the end of May. So, sooner rather than later, right? In another post, Rispoli shared his take on what's next: a filing in district court to modify Judge Torres's order. This could mean lifting the injunction and reducing the fine. That's the next big move to watch for. Oh, and don't forget, before all that action, we're likely to hear about the SEC officially voting to kill this appeal. The next move in the district court would involve filing with Judge Torres, requesting the injunction be lifted and the fine reduced. But the big question is, will she approve it? How does Judge Torres see all of this playing out? If things go the way we're hoping, then that's it. Done. Finished. It would finally, truly, completely be over. We're so close, folks. So ridiculously close. Just hang in there. Oh, and remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't make any buying or selling decisions based on what I say, okay? Seriously, that would be a phenomenally bad idea.